Hey, what's up, guys? You're listening to the It Takes a Village podcast. I'm Ashley, your host. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're having an awesome Thanksgiving break so far. Hope that you are holding it all down as well as you possibly can with the kids home from school, which is why this episode comes at such a good time because I am on the podcast with Nina Garcia from Sleeping Should Be Easy, and she is basically covered everything that she is learning about being a mom, and she's sharing with you all her tips and all the things along the way as being a mom of twins and little ones. So we're talking about toddler discipline. We're talking about just discipline with your littles in general, hitting, biting, the tantrums, all the things. And if you go to her blog, she covers so much more, but we can only cover, a little bit. And if you stay to the end of this episode, she's going to be giving you a link to her free ebook on time management strategies for the overwhelmed mom, which, coming from a mom who is yelling at her kids that we need to get out the door when I'm only halfway ready to get out the door for work, I could say that we could use a little help with our time management. At least I could. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end of the episode where she gives you the link to access that. And also, I would love if you guys could review and rate this podcast on iTunes on your phone. It's super easy. Scroll down once you get to this podcast, tap the star, and then you can choose to leave a review, which honestly could be as short or as in-depth as possible. However you want to do it, I would love it if you could do that. It would help me out to help other mamas find this podcast. So I hope you guys have an awesome break. Hope you love this episode, and let's get to it. Hey everybody, I'm super excited for you to be listening to the podcast today. I have Nina Garcia from Sleeping Should Be Easy, and I'm really excited because having toddlers and little ones is not always a walk in the park, or else they wouldn't make shirts that say like motherhood is the scariest hood you'll ever go through. So I'm happy to have you on, Nina. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashley.
So before we get started, I would love for you to kind of let everybody know a little bit about yourself, like what you do, what life looks like right now, your family dynamic, like that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So I am a mom to 3 boys. My eldest is 8, and I have twins, and they're 5. And I started Sleeping Should Be Easy as a hobby blog, like a lot of mom bloggers have done. We use the blogs to record our outings and lessons we learned. And just over the years, it just grew, and now it's my full-time gig. I love helping moms and dads kind of travel this journey of parenthood, and actually enjoy it, because it can feel so overwhelming, so isolating. And whether it's tips and tricks or just that reassurance that you're not alone, that's pretty much in a nutshell what my passion and what this whole website is aiming to do.
So as you know, then, raising toddlers is difficult, and parents have coined the term like the terrible twos or the 3-nager years, because they feel like it's the roughest time in that age range. Why do you think that we have such a hard time like disciplining the littlest of our babies?
Gosh, well, I think one of the biggest reasons is that we have the idea of discipline backwards. We think of discipline as, we are the parents, we know what's right, and we are going to just, do the punishments, do the timeouts. And this is really hard when you're dealing with this particular age, because they're at that stage where they're trying to learn about themselves. They're trying to assert some sort of control or autonomy. And so we butt heads. So what I'm learning a lot is that discipline is more about teaching. So if we, instead of seeing ourselves as, policing their every move or don't do this, and instead of see ourselves as teachers, like if you're in a classroom, a teacher isn't competing with a student. She's not saying, oh, okay, I'm right and you're wrong, know. I mean, they're sort of on the same side. They both have the same goals of teaching the child. So I think if we can wrap our heads around that, like that we are teaching our children basically a lot of life skills, how to cope with frustration, how to behave, how to express their frustration, so that instead of, hitting their brother, they're going to be able to say, I'm mad, or they can go and get mom and tell them they're upset,
Mm-hmm.
little things like that. So I think it's a lot of power struggles, particularly for this age, because yeah, we're dealing with kids who are coming into that stage where, it's frustrating for a lot of parents, but it's also very normal,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I always like to tell parents that, like, no matter how overwhelming it is, it's actually a good thing that your toddler is asserting herself and, wanting to be self-sufficient,
Yeah.
wanting to tie her own shoes, even though it takes like 5 minutes and she gets upset if you try to help her. That's all very normal.
Yeah. In the moment, we're like, no way. Like, this is.
Yeah, right.
So did you try like a different way of disciplining and then realize it didn't work, or like how did you come upon this idea or this like mindset or philosophy of the way you approach discipline?
Well, it was through different ways. I do a lot of reading,
Mm.
a lot of parenting books. So I've sort of gathered what has worked for me and what
Yeah.
hasn't. And I found that if we stem away from the typical, timeouts, or I'm going to count to three, or, that sort of bossy kind of
Yeah.
tone, and just, went the different route, such as through showing empathy, or changing little things like changing your tone of voice, or finding the right time to get them to do what you want them to do, little
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It was much more effective. Or let's say I was having to, let's say one of my kids was misbehaving, and instead of, that gut reaction is to just yell, like you feel like the only thing that works is to raise my voice,
Mm-hmm.
because nothing else is working, right? So, but what often happens is, okay, maybe it works that one time, but you feel terrible. Or maybe it worked that first time, but it's not effective down the line.
Yeah.
Or it just sort of, like, doesn't feel good. Like, everyone feels drained. But I found that if you actually, hold your tongue and pause,
Yeah.
and I found that even just giving them a hug, it just melts away the defenses that they've they've erected. Like, it just crumbles the wall. They're much more willing to listen, because they know you're on their side. They don't have to feel attacked. They don't they can let their guard down and know that they're safe. So
Yeah.
it's little things like that, that I've learned and, applied to myself. And this is the stuff I write about and share with other parents, and they've said it works, and it's just life changing. So it was just through a lot of reading, applying, sharing, and talking with other parents that I sort of came upon these kinds of methods.
Yeah, and it's so counterintuitive. I feel like initially, like you're like, I can't love on them when they're doing
Yeah,
something. Like I need to let them know that it's not okay.
yeah,
But then you end up like yelling or doing something, and
yeah.
then they get angry. I have a strong-willed 5-year-old, and so
Mm,
for we are not. I am working really, really hard on similar methods that you're talking about, and
mhm,
but I cannot like for the life of me let go of the counting down thing, and I can't
mm.
figure out how to get myself out of it. I'm like, because it doesn't work for him. Like I'll be like, 5, I'll start counting down, and then he freaks out. Like it like makes him get anxiety, like
Yeah.
hardcore. And so I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like, what do you do? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that when you say that, it's so hard to love on them during those moments. But I like to tell parents that it's exactly in those moments when
Mm-hmm.
you do need to do that. This is the time when they need you the most. Like,
Yeah.
isn't it so easy to be affectionate, to be patient when they're so behaved and they're
Right.
doing everything they're supposed to?
Yeah.
But it's actually the times when they're angry and frustrated. That's when they
Mm.
need us the most to be calm. I mean, it's so, like you said, counterintuitive, because you just want to be like, oh my gosh, just stop it already,
Yeah.
But this is actually if the time when they need us to just not feed into that tantrum. Like, we need to not have a tantrum ourselves,
Yeah.
because they need us to be that, sort of strength and stability, to let them know and reassure them that, hey, you know what, like, even at your worst, I'm still here. Like, I may not like the behavior that you're doing, but I still love, you as a person.
Yeah. What is a good alternative to like counting down?
So I tell parents to first show empathy. So okay, let's say, your child is doing something they're not supposed to do, and try to see things from his perspective. Like,
Mm.
let's say, he was playing with, let's say you said, okay, it's time to clean up the toys, and they're just like not doing it. So try to put yourself in their shoes, like, and that's the power of empathy, because then it shows you what it's like to be in their position, and perhaps why it's so hard to not clean up. So in that case, maybe they're having a super fun time, or they're so focused and intent on that project, that, and you can say, if that were me, like, let's say I was really into something and
Yeah.
someone said, all right, time to clean up, wrap up. Like, you're like, wait. Or let's say you're reading, right? Oh, wait, one more page, one more. Like, it's not as easy as we think to transition. So if you show that empathy, then you're kind of be like, okay, in your mind, like, I can see why that's frustrating. And then you can even verbalize it. Like, you can say, it looks like you're having fun playing with your dinosaurs. I mean, I would get upset too if I had to stop playing and do something else. Like, and that acknowledgement of your child hearing that their parent understands what they're going through
Hmm.
is already so reassuring. Like, again, we're melting those defenses.
Yeah.
And then they can say, like, okay, like, they understand, because that's really what they want. They want to be understood. Like, to us, it's so petty. You're like, oh my gosh, you're crying over a lost toy, like, that's what you're throwing a fit about. But they just want us to understand, just, yes, this is real, this is a real frustration
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
So I think just showing empathy, showing that you understand, and then if they truly, are not complying, and you really need them to, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, is it really that important that they need to do something by a certain time? Like, is this something that you're going to let disturb you? Because a
Mm.
lot of the times we can just, really stepping back, we're like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But let's say you do need to go. Let's say you need to get out of the house on time, and all that. I would just show them through body language, like, give them a hug and reassure them. Take those few minutes, even though it seems like, gosh, like, I really need to get out of the house right
Hmm.
now. Those few minutes of just embracing him and showing that it's okay, just letting them get it out of their system. Yes, it's like a few minutes, but trust me, that is much quicker than
Right. Then
forcing
a
them
long drawn out.
down a
Yeah.
sta- Yes, exactly. It takes, like, literally time, minute by minute. It takes longer when you go down that route, and you feel worse than if you were to just say, okay, it's okay. Let's just pause. Let me give you a hug. And I'm not saying that it's okay how you're behaving, but I'm just showing you that it's okay. Like, we'll get through this. And then once they're calm, once you've made sure that you're connected, then you can discipline, and then you can correct the behavior. But that's down the line, once they're actually listening and receptive, right? Because when they're throwing a fit, when they're screaming, they are not listening to anything you're trying to say, and any lessons you're trying to impart.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
you're right. So save that for when they're calm, and then in the moment itself, focus on calming yourself down, because that will rub off on them. That when they can see that you're calm, that this does not phase you, that and they can model that behavior. That's so much more powerful than going down the angry route.
Yeah. And I know, and I've noticed too, they like feed off of us. So, like, the angrier we get, the more frustrated. They're just little, in their little bodies, just look like they're about to explode. Like, so,
Exactly, absolutely.
well, I know that many moms struggle with kids who hit and bite and all those sort of things, and they feel like it's a reflection of their parenting. And I know that we had talking about, toddlers having issues with hitting and stuff. How can we not own our children's problems? Because when they do that, we're like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, what are the other parents going to think about me? Or, oh my gosh, my kid, is hitting, and oh my gosh, like, what, that makes me such a bad mom. Like, how can we not own their problems?
Oh my gosh, I love that you say that, because I tell that to so many parents too. Is don't own their problems, because a lot of the times it's not even ours to own. And it's totally okay to be like, all right, like, okay, go ahead.
Hmm.
But as far as other children and especially other people you don't know, that's usually the times when it triggers these
Yeah.
reactions from us, right? Like you're at the playground and your child hits or he grabs a toy from somebody else and you're just mortified, like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, we don't want to feel like other parents are going to assume, oh my gosh, so she's a mom of that kind of kid. Like,
Yeah.
like, I
Yep.
don't know about you, but that's totally what I think. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't want him to think I'm like that kind of mom. So it's totally normal why in public or with other people's children, we, head in those kinds of thoughts. Um, Again, the first thing I would do is just stay calm. And then if another child was upset or crying, I would actually apologize on your child's behalf and say, "Oh, I'm sorry that happened." Again, it's just modeling that kind of behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would and to show that that so that your child learns that his behavior has an effect on other people, right? Like you can even not to make them feel guilty, but you can literally show how this behavior has led to somebody else feeling hurt, right?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
again, it's not to guilt trip, but just so that they're more aware that hitting hurts or biting is not good. Like that this is what happens if we keep doing that. And if need be, I would remove your child like from that situation if he's just too upset or if it seems like he might keep doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and then again with empathy, but this time it's teaching your child how to show empathy. So you can say things like, you wouldn't like it if somebody else had hit you, or you wouldn't like it. You would get upset too if your brother took your toy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I say that phrase so many times in my house. You wouldn't like it if, and it sounds so redundant, but it really, the more we say it, like it really clicks because then they can really understand what another person is going through, and then it helps them insert that pause as well in their lives where they can say, gosh, like, should I do this? And a lot of the times, obviously, it's reactive, but hopefully, this is what childhood is for, right? Like they're learning these things, these life skills, so that as an adult, you would want them to have that empathy for
Mm-hmm.
others so that they're not reckless with their words and actions. And it's these little things. And that's another point I want to make too. Is like, I know a lot of, parents, it just feels like never ending problem. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't seem to like but I think the mistake is we expect like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I told you that this is, I tried this method. And then, but we forget that this is a lifelong process for all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
we're human, right? Like, and especially in childhood, this is the stage where you want to make those mistakes because the stakes are so low. It's just, it's practice ground. So, don't expect your child to be perfect just because you've been working on, let's say, not hitting. It's a process, and just keep going. So long as you continue to see general progress, you're good. It's okay. Like, don't get too hard on yourself because, your child hit. Excuse me, your child hit another child even though you told him not to. This is a process that
Yeah.
is ongoing.
Yeah, that's true. I think we sometimes forget, like we hold our children to a higher standard and not realizing that we do some of the same exact things just in bigger ways, like with adults instead of like between, two little ones or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
as you were saying that, I was like, I mean, I could tell my child not to yell, but then like, I'm in the car like yelling at another car or, or something like that, so I'm like, oh, like, why would I? Obviously, like it's something we have to work through. It's not like something I can just be like, I don't want you to be a yelling kid because I think it'll but like yet like I'm still having to, and like how much brain power it takes me to like, okay, don't do that, like to think about it and not do certain things in my own life um is like super hard.
Exactly. And I love that. And the more aware we are of that, of just how we would respond if we were in the situation, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, like sometimes we expect them to do things just because we told them to, forgetting that, gosh, if we were in those
Mm-hmm.
situations, it'd be pretty darn hard.
So yeah, I mean, we kind of already talked to controlling our temper, like being more aware. Is there any other things that we can do to and within like handling these issues without it turning into like a full-blown war between us and our kids.
Well, other than so, let's say you've already you know you've worked on being calm
Mm-hmm.
and you've removed him from the situation. I would also go into explaining, well, two things. First, I would explain what his emotions are, or label his emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he was upset and he hit somebody else, um, you can say, you seemed like you were upset, or you were mad, or
Mm-hmm.
you were sad. Because the powerful thing with labels is that it normalizes it, because we forget that emotions, like we don't come equipped with knowing exactly what
Right.
feelings are, right? I mean, we feel like kids feel them, but they don't know, oh, this is jealousy, this is
Yeah.
frustration, this is anger, or this is, So the they feel these feelings, these weird, and it's physical, right? It's not just mental. It's they feel it in their body, so they're just so it can feel very overwhelming. So the fact that you're labeling these feelings, these emotions, it normalizes them. It shows that this is a thing, that it's not just him, that everybody feels this. And that it comes and goes, and that's what's important too, is explain that this comes and goes. Everyone feels it. So that way, when he feels these same feelings, and he's in the same situation, he knows that it's normal. And then the second thing I wanted to say is to show him better ways to express that frustration,
Mm.
so that if he feels like somebody took his toy, he could say, he could use his words. He could say, "That's mine. I'm mad." Or maybe another thing he can do is come get you, right? Like, go tell me, come get me if you ever feel mad. So you're labeling the emotion so that he knows it's normal, and then at the same time also giving him, techniques
Yeah.
how to cope with it. Some parents tell their kids, put your hand on your tummy, because really that's what you want kids to learn, is how to cope with it and how
Mm-hmm.
to manage it, right? Like, these feelings are going to come and go throughout their lives. So do you want, as an adult, do you want them to be throwing tantrums, or do you want them to know how to get through them and know that it's okay and it will get better, right?
Yeah.
So different techniques like that.
When your own boys like do something and you can tell that they're frustrated or angry, do you have any like
Mhm.
go-to things for them, like, okay, you're mad, you removed them from the situation, but maybe they need to like
Mhm.
physically do something with that? Like, is there anything you have them
Mhm.
do?
If they're so frustrated that like they might even hurt themselves or break things, I'll hold them in like a bear hug. Like, I'll face them out, and like I'll just wrap my arms around them,
Uh-huh.
and I just kind of do this just to, again, it's just to constrain and calm them down, and just maybe like rock side to side. I don't say anything. In fact, it's, again, like I think I mentioned that when they're so
Mm-hmm.
upset,
Yeah.
like nothing is gonna
Oh
get
no,
through.
yeah.
So I'll just say, right. So I'm just kind of rocking side to side, or I'm going shh, just like letting the body language, letting the right side of the brain kind of stuff do the talking,
Mm-hmm.
instead of words, and just calming them down. Another thing too is my kids, since they were infants, they had these loveys. I don't know if you know those. Like, they're like comfort items. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a little
Yeah.
blankie. Yeah. So like they love them. So they've learned over the years that, okay, if I get upset, they get their lovey. Like, they'll just go to their room and grab it, and they'll just kind of like, tuck it next to their face. Another one of my kids too, like he knows to go to his room, and he just did this on his own. Like, he knew to, like, when I feel upset or overwhelmed, I need that quiet alone
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
So I let him go, to his private space, and not even try to go there and, discipline or anything. Just, that's his calm down time. Um, so yeah, there's definitely things that kids can do to, like, physically do to, post hitting
Yeah.
situations.
To come down, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this has been really good, and you've shared really good tips. I'm really excited about that, because, man, like, just like we've talked about throughout this, it just feels so like counterintuitive, all of it. I just feel like it just, you feel like you have to show them how wrong, and you're so worried about, what they're going to turn into, and you want to raise this sort of kid, and so it's like you're trying to do it all in this one moment, and we tend to just naturally lean towards, okay, I have to make sure that they know that this is wrong by like doing something that will hopefully will never make them do it again. Um, but
Exactly.
then but then I think about how, some of those things, it makes them feel ashamed of what they feel, or, and so now it makes sense to me how doing the opposite and like loving on him, telling him like, hey, it's okay that you feel this way, or, but like, and then later on saying like, hey, I know you felt this way, but there's a better way to react. Like
Right.
how you felt was okay, but we have to react differently. Um,
Exactly.
Definitely something that I did not learn as a child. So for me, it's not natural. For me, I have to like
Right.
work really hard at like try not to be the parent who does the like the crazy thing and just like yelling at my, because you're we all have seen it like in the store where a parent is like going
Oh,
at it with their like 7-year-old, and you're just like, who seriously is gonna win here, because like what is going on, and then but then like I probably look like that way sometimes too, and I need to like take a
oh
step
yeah.
back and look and be like, whoa, like wait a minute.
We've all been that mom at the grocery
Oh my
store.
gosh, yeah. I don't even take them to the grocery store. I just know like, and that's the thing I've learned too, is like not to set my kids up, because I know their personalities now. It's like not to set them up for situations that I know that are gonna push them, like depending on how they feel, whether it's how they feel,
Oh
like if they're
yeah.
tired and like already cranky, taking them to the grocery store is probably like the worst idea possible. So I'm
Right, and
like,
that's so
yeah.
good. Yeah, that's such a key thing, is that it's prevention. I mean, if you already know that your kids are tired, or if like they can't stay out late, like yeah, it's like don't take them out. It's so much of it is prevention.
Yeah,
So much of it.
for real. We're all laughing because we all can think of like moments right now where we're like, yep, shouldn't have done that one, like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, before we hop off, I want to ask you these three last questions. The first being, if you could choose one of the most influential books that you've read, what would it be?
So I'm The Awakened Family by Shafali Sabari. This one is a more recent read of mine, but my biggest takeaway with that is the idea that our kids don't have to do anything to deserve our love. And
Mm,
that, I mean, it seems so intuitive. Like you hear and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But, if you think about all the times that we've placed conditions on our affection or our love. So, for instance, like we talked about, it's so easy to love on them when everything's fine and dandy. But the minute, they're having negative feelings, or these negative behaviors, it's like, oh, you turn into this completely different
yeah.
person. And again, it's natural because, or it's understandable because we're reacting. But at the same time, too, it's like it sends such a weird message. It's like, okay, well, mom likes me when I'm happy only, versus
Mm,
but the minute I feel sad, or when I, assert my opinion, then all of a sudden I don't get that same love. Not to
mm,
say that again, we're not loving on the behavior,
right.
but we always have to let them know that we still love them no matter what. Like they could be throwing the meanest tantrum, but they have to know that we still love them. Or
Mm,
they could be asleep and we'll still love them, right? Like they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do the same sports you want them to do. They don't have to follow in your footsteps. Just the fact that they exist in your life already means they deserve that unconditional love. So I
mm-hmm.
love that. It's The Awakened Family by Shafali Sabari. And it was just so, it's such a good reminder for me. Like, wow, yeah, you're right. That is what unconditional love is, a
Mm-hmm.
parent's unconditional love.
Yeah, that makes me think of, in my head, I'm like, how can I remind myself of that? And I was thinking, like, love the person and then acknowledge the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And they need
Mm,
to know that. They need to know that we love them. We don't love the behavior.
right.
And which is good because you can correct the behavior. You can't change the person,
That's
but
true.
you can
Yeah.
change the behavior. You can work on that. Hitting is wrong. And you address that later, like you'll say like, oh, no way. Like there's no way that hitting is allowed in this family.
Mm-hmm.
But that behavior is completely separate from who they are. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that book a lot.
What is your favorite form of self care, or what is something that you love to do that fills you up?
Well, I mentioned reading earlier. I love reading. I used to be really into novels. Now it's more about personal development,
Yeah.
parenting. Um, so reading is definitely a big thing. It's one of those things I have to do like every day, like every night before I fall asleep, at least. Another thing I like to do is ride my bike, which I finally bought a. It was something I started this year. Just biking with my eldest to school, so that's been a really fun way for me to just do something I enjoy that's not related to being a mom or not related to work or any of that kind of stuff. It's just something I love and it feels good and it's healthy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I decided, I told my husband, I was like, I really want to buy rollerblades. I used to like roller
Mm.
skate and, rollerblade all the time as a kid and all the way, like through junior high. And then somehow it became like uncool, or
Yeah,
whatever. And now I'm like, why don't I do that again? Like, who cares? I'm gonna have great looking legs. Who
there you
cares? I don't
go. And
know.
more props to you. I never could get into rollerblade.
Really?
I always felt, yeah, like you, man, that's a whole other talent because, and even when I see people rollerblade, I'm like, how do you stop? Because, if you're on your bike or or skateboard, like you stop by putting your feet down. But I'm
Yeah.
like, how do people who rollerblade? More props to you.
You could do it. You could probably do it. Um, Also, I didn't put this on the list, but I would love to know if you have like one mom hack that you have found that is like life saving or like life changing, or maybe even if it's small, whether it's like always keep tissues in your car. I mean, I don't know. What is one mom hack that you have?
Honestly, it's just being organized. I have a planner, and if it's not there, it's not going to get done.
Yeah,
Because
doesn't
there's just
exist.
there,
Yeah.
like there could be so many things
Mm-hmm.
to keep in your brain that it's just overwhelming.
Yep.
So I always say, like, just write it down, get a planner, get a calendar. We have a lot on our plates. So the easiest way to just sort of clear it out is just get it out of your brain, get it on a system. What it doesn't have to be a planner. It could be an app if you're the digital. If the digital is better for you, it's just some sort of system where you can just write it all down.
Yeah, because our brain is a mess, so
Oh
we need
yeah,
to be able to
yeah,
dump it out
right,
somewhere.
exactly. Oh my gosh.
My last question for you is, if you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
Be where you need to be at this moment. So, for instance, if you are a mom to a newborn, it's okay if you have to sit there for an hour and not be able to move because your newborn is sleeping on you. I feel like we're always trying to do so much, and
Mm-hmm.
then these things happen, and then we see them as hassles or like obstacles that are keeping us from getting things done. Do this, do this, do that. But a lot of the times, if you just accept the season that you're in, so let's say you are in the newborn season, know that it's temporary and
Mm-hmm.
no one is expecting you to have a spotless home or even home cooked meals. It's okay. This is the season that you're in your life at this moment. And like all seasons, they come and go, right? So just know that it will ease up and it will flow out and then a new season will come in and just be where you need to be in that moment and don't fight it. Like, so if you are sleep deprived right now, if you're, in the crazy, back to school or, end of school season right now, or if you're whatever season you're in, accept it and don't fight it because I find that if we resist it, the worse we feel. It's almost like we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to not feel these things and not, the sooner I can get out of this feeling, the better. But if you just accept it and just realize that it's gonna come and go, then you're almost at peace with it. And you know, personally, I felt that a lot comparing my eldest and my second, my twins when they were newborns. As a first time mom, I was
Yeah.
really upset at that. Like, my gosh, like I'm still sleep deprived, or I'm still doing this and that. Because you don't know. Like, I honestly didn't know if this would ever end.
Yeah.
But then with the twins, oddly, even though there were two of them, obviously I was physically more exhausted, but mentally I was so much more at peace because then I didn't fight anything. Okay, I'm holding a baby. That's fine. If I have to hold this baby, for an hour, that's fine. That's the season I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I am where I need to be at this moment. And I know it's not forever. So I think that kind of like the second time around, that's when I kind of really realized it. I was like, okay, like this is where I need to be at this point, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to fight it. And actually, if I fight it, if I get upset at this, the worse I feel.
Yeah, I completely
You know?
agree. And then you can't
Yeah.
really do anything about it. It's not like you can,
No,
like wake up tomorrow and have a 5-year-old
yeah,
instead of a newborn. So,
right,
yeah.
exactly. Roll with it. Yep.
Yep. This has been so great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I am so glad to have you on. If everybody wants to, search out your site to read your blog, which is awesome. You talk a lot about what we talked about today and more. Where can
Mhm.
everybody find you in all the places?
So I actually encourage your audience to reach me on sleepingshouldbeeasy.com/list, LIST. When you go to this URL, you can download my ebook on time management for overwhelmed moms. But the really cool thing is not only you're going to get the ebook, you're also going to get my weekly newsletters. And from what I've heard from my subscribers, it's like the thing they look forward to every Monday morning. It's where I talk a lot more about these kinds of things, not beyond the tips and tricks, but really like parenthood, motherhood, changing from within,
Mm-hmm.
not just, trying to, even though the outside stuff is good. We need to do that, but even just changing, within, like what we talked about today. So
Yeah.
sleepingshouldbeeasy.com/list, and you can get on the newsletters and get the free ebook as well.